It's the state of the dungeon. It's a video that Rob does about his games. Yeah! Hello, lovers of high adventure. I am Rob, and this is the State of the Dungeon address for the game that took place on October 6th, 2022. The game, 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, Dragon Heist. All players were in attendance, which was great. The party had just finished defeating a very powerful demon that had been sent to slaughter them. And it tried the slaughtering, it really did, but it was hampered, and it was continuously being just brutalized by the method of its containment. So the group had all kinds of difficulties in hurting it, but in the end they were able to keep everybody alive and stop it from eating anybody, so that they were victorious over the thing. They outlasted a huge, powerful demon, which is cool. Do they have any delusions that they could have beat it if it hadn't been bound? They just wanted to kill them? I don't think so. I think they understand the situation was pretty bleak, but they survived. That's the important thing. Now comes, where did it come from? Well, the town guard came, of course, because huge demon, and the party was to find out that the guard was everywhere that night, because this was what is being dubbed as the Night of Terror. All kinds of crazy events were taking place throughout the town. Violence, monsters appearing, just bizarre. So this demon thing was possibly one of the most, high profile of the actions, but all told, there was a lot else going on. So the guard was spread a little thin, but eventually they showed up because giant demon. Lots of destruction. Not to the group's house, though. It's just when the thing died, its roar broke a lot of windows and woke everybody up who was trying to get some sleep. So, yeah. So they talked to the guard a little bit. They didn't implicate themselves in anything foul, and they requested the presence of Inspector Barnabas Blastwind and Sergeant Crowley, who were looking into the murders outside of their establishment, who did arrive. They heard about it, and they hastened to the Troll Skull alley and talked to the heroes. This was a little bit after the guards had taken their statements and left. The group still had one major clue. The demon's shackles did not vanish with the demon. So they took the shackles in, these massive metal shackles that were around this thing's massive arms. They found out a couple of things from examination and a couple of divination spells. Number one, the shackles were made from abyssal silver. Abyssal silver cannot be made holy. It is, pretty wretched stuff, but it's still capable of tormenting demons who come into contact with it, who are vulnerable to silver. It is part of the fact that everything sucks, and even something that might be bright and shiny, isn't necessarily good in the abyss. So what was the point of these things? They found out that the shackles actually held a contract. Basically, that the particular demon was taken from battle ages ago by Asmodeus himself, actually, who wanted some demons as weapons. So the thing surrendered and accepted the terms of the contract, which are brutal. It basically forces the demon to be in continuous pain until it is released as a weapon by the followers of Asmodeus to destroy whatever is set in front of it to destroy. Well, it couldn't destroy the party, so it sucks for it, because it's not going to be in good shape after that. But they found out that the bracers were actually designed to focus the thing's attention, so it didn't just randomly go slaughtering things. The party's soul signature was succinct enough for the thing to know it was supposed to kill the party, was on it. Also, that the thing was supposed to go and get some sort of a key, which they came to identify as being the Stone of Golor. They also found out, by inferring how much damage the thing was taking, that it couldn't be very far away, or the shackles would have banished it before it actually had a chance to recover the stone, and that it could replenish its health by devouring mortals and stealing their souls and essences. So, theoretically, if it had beaten the party and munched on some heroes' hors d'oeuvres, it would have had the energy to go to the next site to try to recover the stone or kill anybody who had touched it. So the party knew now that the thing was probably pretty close. The thing couldn't have gone all the way to the southern part of town or out of town. It had to stay, leaving a trail of destruction, but it was not going to be very far away. So, the group decided they were going to sweep through a couple of the remaining wards. They were going to do the castle ward first, because whoever would summon a demon like this must have a lot of wealth to be able to pull that off. That can't be cheap. They deduced that a sacrifice of 10,000 gold worth of value and 3 innocent souls needed to be sacrificed to summon this devourer demon, this Goristro. And, quite honestly, not just anybody can pull that off. So if they thought to wipe out the party and make a move on the stone, these people were serious enough that they probably knew what the stone meant and planned on getting it for themselves. Seems to make a bit of sense. So the party decided the next day the shackles are too dangerous. They need to be put aside someplace where they can't be activated. So they were going to take them to the Tower of the Moon, the holy seat of power for Selene. And that, of course, Jazor was going to be the one to ask for that to be stored there where it could be kept safe. They slept overnight. They did have an encounter with a priest of Ilmater who came along. He comes from a sect that specifically looks for signs of demonic incursion, because demons are known for indiscriminate and wanton slaughter. And they feel that this is one of the greatest evils that can take place on that they are uniquely suited for, taking away the pain of the damage that demons can do. Devils are corruptors. There's others who are better at that. When it comes to just sheer pain and helping people to recover, the priests of Ilmater are excellent and selfless for this. So I think they might have gotten some respect for this gentleman, as his healing powers were prodigious, but also he experienced the pain of those injuries himself as Ilmater was washing them away from those who were hurt. They weren't awash with holy power and their wounds just melted. They became numb to the pains that they were suffering as the wounds vanished, and said the wounds played out on this cleric for a few moments at least. So it's a little twist on the healing that Ilmater gives, but I think it adds character and flavor to them. So they were getting ready for bed, and Barnabas, Blastwind, and Sergeant Crowley showed up. And the group laid everything out. They didn't hold anything back. All of their theories, all their wild theories got thrown around. And the existence of the Stone of Golor got out before Barnabas Blastwind, who is not a fool. He picked up on those details. And he revealed that he is a very intelligent man. As an inspector, he's seen the visual evidence from the fireball. Whatever he's determined by his investigations, his deductions, his magical divinations, certainly a part of it. And when the party got done, tossing around their ideas of what happened and what's exactly going on, I mean, they all have a knowledge of the basic facts, but who to blame is a little bit more scattershot on that. And Blastwind broke it down. His theory was that the fireball was meant for the Zentarum. Just happened to catch Dalakar, but the Zentarum were coming after Dalakar, the gnome who had the Stone of Golor. The fact that one of them survived and still absconded with the Stone of Golor told Barnabas that the Zentarum have the stone at this point, which is bad. Very bad. Because if they get to it first, there's no hope for the rightful owners of that wealth to get the money. The dragon horde, which is, dragons are the name for gold pieces, and so dragon heist, dragon horde, it's, yeah, dragons. Then gold pieces. So, this became very serious, and now it was very important that they were going to have to find that nimblewright, because odds are the nimblewright is still somewhere on the premises wherever they're holding the Stone of Galore. So, they go to the Tower of the Moon the next day, after they sleep. Strangely enough, all of them have to make saving throws. The two that failed were Zarya and Felix. They failed a saving throw versus Constitution, despite the fact they're both very healthy, but, you know, dice happen. And both of them were plagued by these very strange dreams that kept them from restful sleep. Not quite enough to hurt them, but it was a preparation of a day where it was going to be a long day. And neither one of them are into coffee. So, they go to the tower. Luxor decides to insist on getting a cart. It's faster, and also, the two who are exhausted can kind of nap in the back of the cart. Now, this is like a hay wagon. It's open. There's benches along in this wagon for the riders and anything that they might want to, transport. It can be used for carrying things quite easily. But this also gets them through town pretty quick. They find out that the town guard is really on edge, and they are questioning all up and down the city. They aren't just patrolling at this point. They are on full alert. And they're wondering why, and this is when they found out about the Night of Terror, where all these strange things happen. A rash of wereboars attacking and sacking a house and burning a warehouse, and more battles between the Zenithar's Guild and the Zentarum. It's pretty bad. The city is kind of getting a little crazed at this point. So, they get to the tower. They go before they find a cleric. Jazor goes in, does the talking. He finds a mid-ranked cleric. He's like, all right, I'll take a look at these shackles and we'll see what we need to do. He goes down, he casts a spell, and very evil. Very evil. They were touched by Asmodeus himself. I mean, that's pretty significant. And they are bonded to the spirit, the essence of a demon. And one end of the manacles actually goes off into the 9 hells. So these are not lightly evil. These are exceedingly evil artifacts that they've got. So he runs off to get the high priest. The high priest comes down thinking, I don't know what I have to do. All I know is Jazor is involved. Somebody might have been transformed, cursed, dead. So he came down as prepared as he could be with whatever he brought. And they're like, we have these shackles that we need to store someplace. We're hoping you'd take them for us. He looked at them. He rolled a good enough religion roll to find the infernal origin of them, and the fact that the silver was from the abyss, realizing that there was something very strange going on. Also kind of revealing that he can read infernal. Which he can. And he read through the bits on the contract and the marks and everything. He's like, okay, I don't want to store these here. We do not have some magical vault where we can hide it away forever. I'd rather banish it to another dimension. Maybe a demi-plane or a pocket dimension of some sort where they won't be polluting where they're at. And the group got really excited. They're like, hey, we know of a demi-plane, the little pocket dimension. We could throw those in and we'd be great. He also let them know that all somebody had to do was make that sacrifice again and the demon would come back in those shackles again. They're like, you mean that could have happened last night while we were sleeping? If they'd have just offered up the sacrifice, killed 3 people, demon? Yeah. Oh, crap. Okay, this is bad. So, they've determined that they want to erase, at the very least, the runes that are the commanding runes that would set the beast against the party again. And they found out to do that they need a variety of spells from powerful spellcasters. Maybe not all of them the most powerful, but still potent spells. They need a disintegrate to help weaken the metal so that the magics can work. They need a dispel evil to dig deep and cast off the connection that they have to the hells in the contract with the chains so that the targets can be removed. They need a magical erasure so that it can wipe out all existence of them as being the target. And they also need several sealing oils and unguents that the Temple of St. Lune can provide. That's not overly complicated, but they need at least 3 spellcasters to do this. It doesn't matter how powerful they are. All wizards can only cast 1 spell at a time. That is a prescription that Mystra herself places on magic. So, they have their work ahead of them because they want to get rid of these. They know that they can't destroy them yet, either. So, they found out that the Iron Lord of Dis himself crafted them with Asmodeus right next to him, making sure it all went well. So, yeah, they're really diabolical. So after that, they left the temple, and while they were, in that part of town, they decided they were going to start using the nimblewright detector, and they combed through the castle ward. They talked to a few people, but for the most part, they diligently stayed in the cart, used it to travel up and down the streets, and they did not find the nimblewright in the castle ward. So it goes. They're part of the fact that they have accomplished something with various factions. They were not questioned or detained for driving a draft cart around the castle ward, which usually is not done. Fancy carriages for the nobility go through the castle ward. A common draft cart with benches on it, pulled by somebody from the Carters Guild, that's not usually enough to fly, but this group is special. So then they're like, okay, well, let's just check our home ward. And they didn't have to check very long. Right in the dab center of the North Ward, there is a noble estate that belongs to Lord and Lady Gralhund. And the nimblewright detector went off, and they went around it to make sure. And yes, it is in their estate. All right. Now they have a location. Now comes relentless moralizing. Because, realistically, several members of the party realize that this is kind of an issue. The Gralhunds may not be top-level nobility, but messing with them is still not a good idea. Especially breaking into their place, stealing stuff. At the very least, the Stone of Galore, which, if they are nobles and they demand it from the City Watch, possession 9/10 of the law, at the very least would create a very sticky situation for them. So they, especially Aldrich, really had a problem with proceeding any further. At least in mass. Jazor wanted to bust in and get it. They're convinced that something's not right here. Aldrich took a pragmatic approach. He cast invisibility on Luxor and let the cards fall where they may. It is sometimes amazing how having one action-driven, chaotic person in the group can really speed things up. Because as soon as he had a license, he's invisible, he vaulted off of Jazor's shoulders. He found out that the walls were alchemically treated so that they can't be climbed, but they can be vaulted over. So he kicked off of Jazor's shoulders and got up. Now, granted, that's not going to stop any thief who's properly prepared. It wouldn't stop a ladder. It wouldn't stop somebody from levitating or a jump ring or something like that. But it was enough to stop common thieves and foot purses, so that's why they spent the money on the alchemical treatment for their wall. So, but he was still able to get up without much of a difficulty because he is pretty awesome at what he does. So, Luxor looks over and he sees that the inside is meticulously manicured, everything looks nice, except there's a stray leg sticking out from the side of the house, just lying there. So he went down and he scouted and found out there was a dead body of a guard wearing the Gralhund's livery lying on the ground with his throat carved out. He rolled the body, of course. This is Luxor we're talking about here. And going around, he found out there were a couple of other guard corpses that were stacked outside of the door leading off to the kitchens. At least it's the most likely place that it leads to. Kitchens, pantries, something like that. While the group is standing outside the gates, just kind of, come on, Luxor, let us in. He was very thorough in looking everywhere else. He examined the outside of the stables. He examined the guard quarter that's built onto the manor house. And he examined all... Eventually he went to the front door. And he picked the lock because, again, Luxor is very good at what he does. And opens the door, looks inside, and bodies everywhere. There's at least 8 dead men in the room. Several of them are Gralhund guards. Several of them are wearing black leather, black clothes. And there are 2 black-clad figures with maces that are still standing inside that room. And they pay attention to the door and notice the door open, but nobody's there. Invisibility is a 2nd level spell. It's not an unknown that people can become invisible. So they had an idea that possibly somebody could be invisible. So they move forward, swinging their maces at odd angles in front of them, but trying to sweep so that they could connect with anybody who might have gotten in invisibly. This is something that doesn't take a great deal of brains to do. It may not be something the lowest level cut purses on the street would do, but these guys are experienced knee breakers and thugs. They know at least about the most common 1st and 2nd level spells, and of course fireballs. Lightning bolts, probably. But, other than that, that is basic life in Waterdeep, is that there can be... It's too easy to become invisible. Lots of people can do it, so lots of people know about the possibility. So they were sweeping along, and he just backed out. He's like, okay, done. He went back to go and get the others when the thugs locked the door and went back to their guard duties. And Luxor went up, and he again masterfully unlocked the door. The gate, I should say, which was pretty darn impressive to do. Very high difficulty. Managed it. Opened the gates, let the people in. And one of the things they did is they paid a street urchin to go run and tell the city guard, because they were pretty sure something bad had happened. Once they found out that the guards were dead. So the boy ran off. They told him to go and tell Pip and make sure Pip got the guards. So they go into the house. They go into the house like a hurricane. Again, Luxor picks the lock, no problem. Zarya, Jazor, through the door. Roar. Well, before they could do anything, somebody moved before they did. And that would be Samuel. Samuel, sleep spell. One of those goons was down. Sleep is still a darn good answer to a lot of problems, and it never completely leaves the usefulness stage. So, at 1st level spell, it's a great spell. And it takes one half of the opposition out of the fight right off the bat. The other one was quickly overcome by the party just mobbing in. Really? Everybody took a shot at him. The dice weren't great. I'll just say that. This guy didn't have a great armor class, though, and it was still enough to take him down very quickly. The only one who didn't go and mob on him, or at least stay and observe without attacking, Luxor himself shot over to the other side of the Grand Hall and looked around. The guy knows how invisibility works, and he knows how to use it to maximum effect. Gotta give credit where credit is due. So he's maintained his invisibility through the whole thing. Just about. And, it's crazy. As they're finishing up, Felix darts up a staircase where he can hear fighting going on up there. And he sees there are 4 guards who are battered and bloodied, taking on 3 thugs who are desperately trying to get into the room past them. Well, those three black-clad guards, or thugs, well, if you have a skilled Gloomstalker Ranger who just pops up behind them with Sharpshooter, I mean, it's a cheese build. This doesn't take brains. He completely eviscerates one and wounds the guy next to him. Just one hit, just his heart explodes out of his chest. Just the second one is injured. And he turns and he realizes he's flanked. And all of a sudden it seems like this newcomer is more dangerous, but he's only got a bow in his hand. So he takes an attack of opportunity, he gets hit, but he moves over and he slams the ranger. Felix is a little hurt, but not bad. Remember, he's an archer, so it's not his first choice to get into hand-to-hand, but he's capable of defending himself. Turns out he didn't have to. The fellow below was finished off with a punch from Zarya and knocked out. So while she was taking a little time to tie up the two Zentarum, as it turned out they were, because they didn't have the tattoos, but they had all the hallmarks, Jazor ran up the stairs. And he got right into the middle and just hewed away at the goon who was attacking Felix. And then 4 guards against 1 lone thug. They all attacked at once after calling for the lone guy to surrender and just cut him down like wheat. Now, no more bad guys visible. The 4 guards were standing there looking at the characters like they might be trouble, but they did just help them out. And they don't look like brigands. Jazor, of course, resplendent with the holy symbol of Selene, well-known goddess, well-respected in many quarters. These guards have seen an awful lot of life. They're all veterans. So they're like, okay, thank you for your help. We're not letting you get past us until we're given orders that you are allowed to see the mistress. However, the master of the house is through that door, and the leader of these brigands is in that room trying to kill him. So the group turned and went that way. With the exception of Luxor, who took advantage of the opportunity to go through, and he found the ballroom, which was opposite the room where the fight seemed to still be taking place. Ballroom, interesting place. Tacky decor. And the kind of the taste of these particular nobles is a little debauched. But finally, Luxor comes over. He lets them into the room. On the other side of the room, there's a man kicking a door to the interior bedroom. This is the dressing room antechamber. It has a bath on one side. So this is clearly a chamber for, guests. This is more of a guest room. And this man has a short sword in his hand, and he is clearly furious with who's on the other side of the door. So at this point, he turns and sees a group of heroic adventurers standing there. And he quickly does some mental calculations. And while he's doing this, faster than he could do this, Samul was making mental calculations of his own and has developed his own standard operating procedures. When there's NPCs around, he casts Detect Thought using a metamagic feat that he has that gives him some sorcery points so that he can cast Subtle Spell. He can cast with no visible trace, and all of a sudden, Subtle Spell. So, he was able to read surface thoughts. He was able to detect how many people were beyond the door the guards were guarding. 2. He was able to detect, who was in the room where the guy with the short sword was. There's one, and there's another person behind him, in behind the door. So then he started looking at the guy who had the leather armor, who was responding pretty well. He's like, hey, I found out that the man behind this door is a devil worshipper. We should take him together. And they're like, no. Your black leather armor, your the other people like you murdered all of these guards, and you're a Zentarum. So, no, we're not trusting you. And the man's like, At this point, Samul is starting to read his mind and realizes the man is looking for the stone. And part of his rage is that he figures they're also after the stone, and he's trying to get in the room with this guy to try to get the stone. So the group's like, oh, the stone's back there. And they keep talking, and the man, whose name is Urskull, says, well, I can't help, but he has an ability where he can make a feint. He can make a deception roll resisted by the player's insight check, and if he succeeds, he can get an attack that, if it hits, it scores his sneak attack damage. So even though he doesn't get the drop on anybody, and he certainly would not have been able to use his assassinate ability, he can still at least do some damage on his own, despite the fact he's not a swashbuckler. That's only if that works, by the way. It worked really well on Jazor, because he stabbed him in the throat and almost took him down. Jazor fell back to heal himself, and Zarya just eagerly stepped up, went into rage, and he tried that same trick on Zarya. Number one, she's raging, so yeah, that didn't work out very well for him. Second of all, she hit him in the chest with her axe with a critical. Her axe does acid damage. She's using it two-handed. The damage could have been just disgusting. Even when it was a pedestrian roll, as it was, it still almost ended him with a single blow. He attacked her, and he just kind of turned green when she just about ignored it, because 4 points of damage does not scare her at this point. There was some fire thrown at him. There was a few spells. Loxor, again, completely resisted the temptation to break his invisibility and do something in the scene. So finally it was up to Jazor moving up and finishing the fight and dropping Urskull. And he died. And Jazor, with his massive strength, tried forcing the door open and didn't succeed. The dice weren't with him on physical feats, but Zarya was just... She was still angry, so she just pushed the door out of the way. And there they found the Master of the House Lord, Gralhund. And he is a broken wreck. He is pitiable, and they have a wizard with detect thoughts just standing there. Interrogations go so much easier when you can read what the other person's thoughts are. And because he is a frail-minded fellow, his mind immediately went to the thoughts that incriminated him. So while they were talking to him, he tried to be, thank you very much for freeing us from these horrible people. And at the same time, Samula's hearing, oh God, I hope they're not here to punish us for all the horrible things we've done. Yeah, the Growlers are not innocent people at all. At all. And they were working lockstep with the Zentarum to try to get the Stone of Golor, which they promised they would be richly rewarded for. Which the Zentarum actually might have honored that, because if you're known as rule breakers and oath breakers all the time, it doesn't go well for you. Well, they finally got their hands on the stone, because Urskull survived the fireball, grabbed the stone, and yes, he was the burned guy, and brought it back to the estate, because it was only a few blocks away. Yeah. So the Gralhunds were tired of how long it had taken the Zentarum. They had given them... Basically, they had financed the operations of the Zentarum in Waterdeep for weeks. And they were tired of not having a return on their investment. So when Urskull came back, wounded, angry, accusing them of attacking him because it was the nimblewright of Lady Gralhund who threw the fireball, they're like, okay, enough of the charade. They had the guards take Urskull, lock him in the parlor below. Well, they figured out what to do, and they grabbed the Stone of Golor. But they didn't have a lot of time. The Zentarum came in to try to get Urskull back. Urskull killed his guards, and they just went through a murdering spree, killing all of the Gralhund guards they could, trying to get at Lady Lady Gralhund and Lord Gralhund. He was content that his thugs would be able to beat through the veteran guards to get to the lady, and he was going to take the Lord himself. The party got involved, and that stopped that. So, That's what happened. And they got that directly from the mind and the lips of Lord Gralhund. Ironically, his wife, if she'd have heard him blubbering, would have probably tried to intervene, but she didn't hear him spilling his guts. Dice rolled where they may. I kind of wanted to have her do something, but no, nothing happened. And, yeah, it, eventually, Luxor slipped into the bedroom and saw the lady and her half-orc bodyguard, big brute, with a big morning star. And he scouted around the room, because he's Luxor. And he found a room out of the bedroom that was the children's room. And there's two young boys with play swords. They're looking scared, because they know bad things are happening. They heard fighting throughout the house and death screams. So, you know, to be honest, the things that go on in this house, the kids are tougher than they might look. While this was all going on, the party had split up, because not everybody needed to be all in one place. Like, Zarya had still been downstairs for a while. Then she ran upstairs. Then she just left, because this was boring to her, beating up on this old noble who's not really all that old. So she went downstairs, and her and Jazor took off to kind of explore the ground floor, under the possibility that there might still be more Zentarum left. Well, they found the library straight off. The library has a big evil-looking book on a lectern. That's got the attention of at least two party members. It's an iron-bound book, Gralhund family seal on it. It is chained to the lectern. Yeah. They also found the study. They found out that Lord Gralhund has some interests. I'm not going to get into detail here, but yeah, dude's a freak. Dude is a freak. And also not much of a reader. He is a pretty weak-minded fellow. They also found the parlor where Erskell had been subject to imprisonment, with no windows, no secret doors or anything like that. He had been stuck for a little while, and he was not happy. But they found the parlor. They found a couple of rooms. They didn't search the entirety of the bottom floor, but they searched most of it. Enough to know that there's no reprisal from the Zentarum down here. They're good. And at that point, who should join them but the guard that they had sent the boy for? No, the boy went to Pip, and Pip goes, they don't want the guard. Here, Khalees, their friendly artificer, Max, their friendly sorcerer, go help your friends out. They're at this place. So they did. Khalees with his steel defender orangutan, and the diminutive halfling who was actually found out that it's kind of fun to ride on the orangutan, so they got there quickly. Came in and was like, Pip said you needed help, and they're like, Pip, you wonderful, wonderful boy, because now they realize there's really a convoluted plot here, and if Blastwind or just some Fumblefinger guards showed up, this whole thing could be really blown up. They've got a lot of things they want to see, they want to explore yet, so they seem to be pretty grateful that he wasn't there. Now the question is, where's the nimblewright? Where's the Stone of Galore? They don't have any answers for it yet. Aldrich went in, talked to Lady Gralhund. She said, my children are safe. Thank you for your help. Please make sure that the house is taken care of and the guards are called. And we thank you, as we are of noble blood. You will be well rewarded for your actions. They're like, yeah, right. But, what do you do? And at this point, Jazor starts looting through their chest of drawers. Picks the lock, genius. Tries to, investigate inside of the chest for anything. Rolls a natural 1. And because his investigation is good, but it's not absolutely incredible, that opportunity kind of had a twinge, and he had clothing and stuff that was stuck to him so that they could see somebody invisible was looking through their trunk. So they immediately got suspicious. So that's Lady Gralhund and her bodyguard. The bodyguard moved forward and tried to attack. Luxor. Luxor used his Mask of 1,000 Faces to try to look like Davil Starsong, the Zentarum contact that he had, and just to try to run away, implicating the Sun Elf. That's kind of where we ended off. The baton, the nimblewright detector, has been handed off to Khalees, who's going to try to calibrate it to hone in on where the nimblewright is, rather than just doing this global 500-foot, there's a nimblewright in this range, as it currently stands. Khalees can make modifications like that, so he's going to be working on that. Samul is honing into the library at that book, because that looks like it could be very interesting. And also they got out of him that, out of Lord Gralhund, that's where his wife keeps her secrets. So yes, they want to see that badly. Very badly, before the town guard shows up. Max is just kind of hanging around. Jazor is hanging around down the lower levels. No, he's up watching after Lord Gralhund and making sure nothing happens with him. The veterans are patching themselves up, the bodyguards. And Luxor is kind of on the run after his invisibility thing has ended, as he used his Mask of 1,000 Faces and is trying to evade conflict. He tried running out to the balcony, but that door is locked, so he's kind of stuck in there with an angry half-orc with a Morning Star who is trying to beat him. Yeah, pretty much everything kind of par for the course. Oh, Zarya's downstairs as well with Khalees and Max. Aldrich is still up, feigning shock and surprise at Davil Starsong appearing. So he is still maintaining his role. Yeah, Felix is kind of just invisible everywhere, doing Overwatch over the whole scene. Hey, when you're a Tabaxi Ranger, you can get anywhere in the house in a single round. Yeah, he can do Overwatch over everything. So that's where the group is. So, thank you for joining me. That is the State of the Dungeon Address. What else can happen, right? We'll see what happens in the next session. Thanks for joining me. Until next time, farewell.